competing with school buses, and then, of course, wildlife. Sue Bertram in favor of the Mariposa project as workforce housing. Leslie Shukley in favor of the Mariposa project just in general. Francesca Poston, do not raise property taxes, return federal funds. Austin Michelle Jones, opposed to the Mariposa project. Property value loss ruin the country feel. Tom Marshall, stop the continual expansion of government. Tanya Benson, a comprehensive request with dozens of questions regarding the budget and proper government function, and request to return ARPA. Mary Jo Johns in favor of the Mariposa project as workforce housing. Eric Schmalbach, opposed to the Mariposa project. Andy and Kelly McDonald, opposed to the Mariposa project, lived on Sunday Circle 26 years, will ruin the rural field, wildlife, dark skies, kids on bikes. George Studer, reject ARPA funds to avoid risk of strings, set budget accordingly within our means. These came in late. Dina Kasberg, protesting the Mariposa project. Comprehensive plan, too much traffic, the wildlife, and getting in and out of Mariposa Drive. And Alexander Cortez resides at Sunday Circle, opposing the project because of traffic, putting children at risk, riding bikes, exercising, dog walking, etc. And in his view, the ruination of the neighborhood. So those are the written comments that we received that will go on the record. Now, I want to be clear before we get into verbal comments, of which we have many, I'm sure, on this item. The council is not voting tonight on this issue. There is no vote to annex or to approve the project. This is strictly a public hearing, and so we want to hear from you, but just be aware that this is not a meeting at which we take action to vote. This issue item is also going to be on the Planning and Zoning Commission agenda tomorrow night at 5:30, right here in this room, right? So you may want to put that on your calendar as well. All right, Carol Hammerson. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I got my things messed up here. Agenda, public hearing. Okay. Oh, okay. I see. We got three things: agenda, public hearing, and not agenda. Okay. All right. So let me just check real quick. Mr. Aguilar, do you have a particular item on the agenda you're wanting to address? Mr. Aguilar? Tom Marshall, item 4. Oh, you did speak, Tom. Yeah. Do you have an agenda item you didn't notice? You didn't note one. Is there an agenda item you're here to speak on? Okay, that's not on the agenda tonight, so that will go on the agenda, not on the agenda. Okay. Mary Lee, same thing with Tom? I'll skip it. Okay. And Jeanette, item 9, is that correct? The completion of phase 2 on the broadband. Okay. All right. So now we're at the public hearing. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're going to take that when we get to that item, Jeanette. Okay. All right. So let's do the consent agenda, Council. These may be acted upon a single motion, no separate discussion or actions unless you pull it and want to. We're considering the reapproval of City Council member minutes for August 15th regular, August 17th work session, August 22 work session. We've all had a chance to read and submit spellings and those kinds of smaller things to Shelley to correct. But are there any substantive changes in the minutes? Okay, I'll take a motion.
I move that we approve 6A, the minutes for August 15th, August 17th, and August 22nd as amended.
Second.
I have a motion second to approve these minutes of these 3 meetings as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, to item number 7, public hearing. Hold a public hearing to receive comments for or against a request by Mark Pavlicek, is that correct? With Cherry Builders LLC for the consideration of a request for voluntary annexation for approximately 9.37 acres of land described as Lot 2AR, the Kinman subdivision located at 211 Mariposa Drive, Z2214. Is there a, do we recognize staff or go right into public hearing? Do we need a staff presentation or is that afterwards? What do we normally do?
Normally do your public hearing first.
Okay. Motion?
I so move to go in public hearing.
Motion second to go from regular session into public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now we're in public hearing. Nancy Heiner. And we do have a 3-minute limit. We have lots of speakers.
I've been timed. Good evening. I'm Nancy Heiner, President of Heritage Hill Country Association and representing our residents. We strongly oppose the annexation of 211 Mariposa Drive and the zoning request, which you have 2214 and we have 2215 on our documentation that was given us. But changing that property to a PUD HDR, high density residential, we oppose that. Our petition of protest has been submitted, and only those residents in the 200-foot affected area were allowed to sign this petition, and we had 92% on that. We would have had 100% of resident was out of town. Safety is our main issue because of Mariposa. Mariposa, as you know, is substandard narrow road, has a 90-degree turn, and then it has a blind exit and entrance on US 290. Very dangerous. Especially dangerous with the construction of a 3-story, 249-unit HDR, adding potentially 500 more cars a day on that road. Affordable housing is necessary, but not in that location. It's very unsafe. In addition to the noise, the disruption, the surrounding established single-family neighborhoods, including Heritage Hill Country, which is the city's only senior subdivision, would not be in keeping with our city ordinances. Appendix B, Zoning Enacting Clause, Section 3.700 PUD, Section 5.310 Review and Evaluation Criteria, Section 5.471 Conditions, all of these repeatedly mentioned detrimental to surrounding property, 2, compatibility, 2, public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity. Our properties would be devalued, the city's resources and utilities would be stretched. Our residents are your free labor. We volunteer at the hospital, Good Samaritan Center, the Needs Council, Meals on Wheels, Food Bank, as well as our churches, museums, theater, festivals. We're your donors. Don't let today's color of our hair fool you. We're from all over the country. We're natives of Fredericksburg. We're lawyers, doctors, nurses, educators, homemakers, ranchers, engineers. We've worked in the finance world, gas, oil, and chemical industries. And we're a block of 276 voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heiner. So is it 22, 15, or 14? It's 15 on the P&Z.
Yes, sir. It's 15 for the zoning and the land use items. The annexation is 2214.
What's 14?
2214 is the annexation item.
Ah, okay.
2215 is zoning
Project.
and land use.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, folks. I love your enthusiasm. I really do. But we've got a bunch of speakers. Can we just assume you all agree and not applaud and woohoo? Because I believe you, okay? And you're very good speakers. It was just, that's a personal request. It's not a requirement. But you're good speakers, but applauding and woohooing, we just know you agree, okay? Now, if you don't, you can stand up and boo. How's that? Okay. Jim. I'm sorry, I can't read this. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I want to thank you for letting me talk for 25 minutes. My name is Jim Hambright, and I'm here with all these people from Mariposa, from Heritage Hills, and from Frieden. A lot of what I'm going to say, I can't say for sure because we have been told absolutely nothing about this subdivision that's coming into our neighborhood, except that it is a high density, 500 to 700 people apartment complex. 500 to 700. Nancy, I'm not sure, but she said only 500 cars a day will be on the road, extra on the road. At Mariposa, I have been told that on one gate, it counts about 400 to 500 people a day. We hope that those 400 or 500 people come home every day. So that's about 1,000 to 1,200 cars a day come and go through our neighborhood. If you take 500 people, that means probably about 1,600 ups and downs, 800 each way, which will be unbearable for our neighborhood, for our quality of life, and just general living. The second thing is that I want to talk about is construction. Can you imagine next door, if you were a senior like us, having a year of pounding on roofs, trucks backing up, beeping? The noise will be unbearable. It will ruin a year of our lives. But yet nobody has talked to us about that. The subdivision the people that want this have yet to come talk to us. I don't understand that. Frieden came to us and talked multiple times before it even came in. But these people gave us no chance to really know what's going on. So a lot of what's being said is simple gossip and panic. That's simple. The other thing that we're scared about is that we live in Fredericksburg. We have seen what's happened to the density in neighborhoods already. You don't believe that there's a problem? Get on Austin Street and drive all the way to the cemetery in any part of that historical district. You can get in your car, drive up, get out of the car and throw 4 rocks and probably hit 5 B&Bs. The density is the problem. The density causes the noise and the problem. That's what we are afraid of in our neighborhood. It's not the people. It's the density of people that becomes horribly, it destroys who these places are. We ask today that you do not let this genie out of the bottle till it's really studied. Don't give people permission to build this big apartment complex without knowing truly what the roads are going to be, what's going to go on in this neighborhood, and in some way encourage the people who are going to develop this to give us the courtesy of telling us what truly is going on. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Joe Kavanaugh.
Well, Mayor Hoover and council members, as you're well aware already, this Frieden subdivision is the proposal has multiple problems from the view of all those residents in the area. And we're talking about a property that I've given you a 4-page handout I prepared that explains the issues I see with it and the potential issues as well. And on the front end, we're talking about 3 subdivisions. Mariposa, which is a tranquil kind of country place. Heritage Hill Country, which is senior citizens, and Frieden. This 3-story proposal of a building is going to be at the top of a hill of around all of them. In other words, it'll become the focal point on the horizon from all 3 subdivisions. The focal point. And at night, it will create enough light so it'll light our wonderful dark neighborhood right now. I can see the Milky Way at night from my front porch. So that's the first thing. Second thing, the traffic density. I spent a lot of time putting together pictures to give you a real clear idea of what people are talking about with this narrow road. The narrow road's part of the issue. At the bottom of the hill I live on is a narrow bridge that is 20 feet wide. And you can see what happens when a school bus goes through that every day. Now, people may ask why I shot a picture of the school bus to make that point. Well, the other big vehicles that are in here every day are FedEx trucks, the trucks for UPS, and all those kinds of things, but also garbage trucks, including the city garbage truck that is serving the 4 houses in the mini subdivision right behind my house. As you can see on page 3 of the proposal, our house is an anomaly. Like the Kirk's house, our houses were set aside by the people who built Mariposa for them and their mother-in-law. And we're not in the Mariposa subdivision. We're not part of the HOA. We're county residents floating alone in an island of single-family residence subdivisions between Mariposa and Heritage Hill Country. And we're by ourselves out there, but we get great support from the city wherever possible and also from the county. But the road on Heritage Hill Country is talking about is Mariposa, which is a city street. Now, it has the junction with Sunday Circle at my house. And Sunday Circle is a privately owned road owned by the Mariposa subdivision, and they have total rights over who gets to use it and who doesn't. The other thing is we're dealing with drainage and sewage, and that's on the last page. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Eric Schmalbach.
Good evening. My name is Eric Schmalbach. I own the property in Sunday Circle, which has been 200 feet of the proposed development. I'm protesting about 2214 and 2215, and I'll go into a couple of quick reasons why. The first reason pertains to the the applicant in this case, which is North Cherry Builders, LLC. According to the Texas Secretary of State, that entity was involuntarily forfeited on June 24th, 2022. I have a copy of the forfeiture document, which I'll provide to the city secretary to make sure it goes on record. So why does that matter? Well, under the Texas Local Government Code, if this annex is passed, the city is going to have to get into a services agreement with this entity. So basically, they're going to be entering into an entity that has forfeited its existence. So that raises a question. So this project is going to require millions of dollars of infrastructure improvements. We're talking about roads, sewer, water, potentially a bridge on Mariposa. So how do we expect this entity to perform all of those obligations if we can't file the appropriate paperwork and it's not even in existence? Point 2 is that this proposed development is against the comprehensive development plan. And I put together a 22-page spreadsheet, PowerPoint with all the reasons for that, which I'll let you look through. And I don't have time in 3 minutes to go through all of those. One of the things I'd like to point out is that page 4.24 of the comprehensive plan provides that applicant is required to prove why this proposed development adheres to the comprehensive plan, and he hasn't done that. The only thing that we've got is a 9-page PowerPoint that doesn't explain anything. So third point is that because this is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, the only way that the city can prove this would be to amend the comprehensive plan, which has not been done. So there's an avenue for doing this. One of the things I'd like to point out, and I don't know if you have a pen and want to write this down, but this code section, it's an Appendix B 5.310, provides a list of 5 things that the city has to verify before it changes the comprehensive plan or the use plan. One of those is that there's no damage to property within 600 feet. So I don't believe that any of those items have been verified. So I would ask that you reject this and not approve these requests. Thank you.
Eric, what's the source of the PowerPoint?
What's the source?
Was it the developer?
No. Oh, his PowerPoint?
You said you got a 9-page PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's the developer's
Okay.
PowerPoint. I think that was included in the agenda. I think you have that.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you. Bill Sadd. order, please.
Thank you. My name is Bill Sad. I live in Heritage Hill Country, inside the 200-foot impact area of this development. I'm against its approval. Everything about it is just too much. Rural. The city's future land use plan calls this tract rural and then says area for very low residential use. That doesn't fit. Traffic we've covered. 7 times more traffic than presently generated by Sunday Circle. Density. The development will have a density of 27 units per acre, surrounded by single-family residential homes and cows. Heritage Hill Country, 5 units an acre. Sunday Circle, about 1.5. Frieden, less than 1. That's 27 units in a small area versus 5, 1, and less than 1. The 3-story apartment buildings would loom over everything else in the area. Heritage Hill Country homes, especially on Chase Oaks, could well suffer significant property damage. The apartment size, this is strange. The current R3 zoning allows for 255 studio apartments on this tract. Therefore, the average size of their 250 1 to 3 bedroom apartments would be about the same size as a studio apartment. And the developer wants to modify the multifamily square footage requirements, a minor modification, translated, that means a reduction, making it more in line with their target market, providing smaller living spaces, and also to satisfy the project's financing needs, i.e., squeeze in the maximum number of units possible on that tract. What's their target market? Workforce, affordable, average apartment size, average rental cost per foot. Will they really be affordable? And finally, open space. The 9+ acre tract, about 70% of that would be covered by buildings and parking. The courtyard for over 500 people would only be about 2/3 of an acre. Not much space for families and children. In short, everything about this development is just too much. It doesn't belong in our single-family residential setting. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Aguilar. Ruben Aguilar.
Yes, sir.
Did you want to speak on the item? Did you want to speak in the public hearing about this development?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Your permission. Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. So, concerning the annexation and all these people moving in, so I'm an overpopulation alarmist. I've always believed that with an influx of people, more people means more resources, more water, more food, more development, more schools, more taxes, more traffic, more crime. All this stuff is going to take place when we start all this development without any checks and balances. And that's why I'm here, because I'm really worried. I've been here since the 70s, and I've seen Fredericksburg grow, explode. Now, every time you hear people talk about why they moved to Fredericksburg, they say, well, we wanted to get away from the big cities. We wanted that small town atmosphere. Well, this town is exploding. Soon it'll be like Bernie or Kerrville. And is that what you want? Not to mention that what if this next drought that we're in for lasts 4 years? Where are we going to get the water? All these people say, oh, well, we catch our own rainwater. There is no rain. And another thing, we need to stop building these giant wind turbines and start building giant catapults to toss all these people back across the river. So, but anyways, no, it has nothing to. We have to worry about our people first, Americans of all colors, all
Mr.
races,
Aguilar.
Americans.
Okay.
All right.
I
Yes.
enjoy your passion.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I was only interrupting him because he was off topic, not because he didn't express enough passion. John Heber.
I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for the opportunity to speak. If you ever wondered what it was like to be the meat that gets thrown into the lion's cage, I am not from the little village next door, and I am for the project. So that makes it kind of tough. I understand everyone's passion. We bought our property in the Hill Country in 1990, and when we bought that property, it was truly a rural development. Fredericksburg was not open on Sundays. There was very few places to eat. There were very few businesses, and we didn't have over 100,000 people a week coming to see us. Okay, there are people who support the businesses locally. I am one of those. I support all of them. I also support all of the tourists that come into the territory because I believe that money generates jobs for the community. Is there projects being built? Try to find a contractor. Try to find a subcontractor, and you know how many projects are being built. Okay, when we started here, Becker Winery and Grape Creek were the only wineries. Grape Creek was owned by Ned Sims. That was it. Today we have over 50. I know it's really hard when something is right next door to you, but it doesn't mean that just because it's next door to you, it's bad. We need a place for the people who work in the industries in this city to live. They have to have a place that they can afford to live. We've been talking about affordable housing for 6 years, 7 years. Something has to be done about it. And if you don't have an affordable place to live, you don't have the workers working in this community. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, John. Martha Ziner.
Good evening. Thank you, council and staff. My name is Martha Ziner, and I'm a homeowner in the Heritage Hill Country neighborhood, but on the far opposite side from this development. And I'm also a member of the 290 East Action Alliance, which is a group of community members concerned about traffic on 290. We were instrumental in getting the light at 1376 and also the new turn lane in the middle of 290. So there are two very compelling reasons why to reject this annexation and zoning request. And the first concerns the city's obligation to grow the city's limits responsibly and logically. And as I understand it, we look to the comprehensive plan for that information. And I studied it online, and nowhere could I find evidence that the city has identified this area as a potential future growth area, and most importantly, as a high-density future growth area. This area is currently designated rural, and there are 2 single-family home developments adjacent. And even more important to us, of course, is that Heritage Hill Country development, made up of single-family homes, is an over 55 development with covenants, conditions, and restrictions in place, compelling the residents to adhere to certain conditions which promote peace, quiet, and security. To allow an apartment complex in this area with R3 zoning is simply not in line with the city's comprehensive plan. The second compelling reason to reject the annexation request is the use of Mariposa as egress and ingress. Please take the time to drive down Mariposa at 9 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and try to make a left-hand turn onto 290 East. And you'll see how dangerous it is. It's right at the curve, right after Pedernales Veterinary, and adding a high volume of cars on Mariposa, making a left turn, is really irresponsible. This project is simply the wrong project in the wrong place. We're not against, and I understand what John just said about workforce housing. And my husband even said to me, he said, well, where would you put it? We need apartments. Where would you put it? And I said, along a traffic corridor that can handle that kind of traffic. Friendship, Tivydale, 16 North, 16 South, 87 South. Those are all places that can handle that kind of volume. So if it was a project of single-family homes, we might be having a different conversation tonight, but we're not. So please reject the annexation and the zoning request. Thank you.
Dina Kasberg, are you wanting to? I mean, we got your written comments. Do you want to? If we have the record of your comments, if you don't have anything else to add, yeah, thank you. Carolyn Bleacher.
My name is Carolyn Bleacher, and I live at 209 Sunday Circle. I have been a full-time homeowner from 2014 to present, and I'm also currently on the Mariposa HOA board. I've reviewed the information from the developers that we just recently received for the proposed Mariposa apartment project and see an accent point onto Sunday Circle from the southeast parking lot in front of the one-bedroom apartments. Sunday Circle is a private road and use is strictly allowed for the residents and guests of Mariposa homeowners and the Webbers. It is a very old road from the 80s, originally constructed and totally maintained by the residents of Mariposa, not the city or the county. It cannot handle any additional traffic, either in terms of wear and tear to the road itself or traffic in general. Some time ago, we had a road maintenance company give us an estimate to repair or replace this road. The estimate at that time came in around $40,000, but that was when oil was about $50 a barrel. Now it's around twice that. If we had to replace the road because of wear and tear caused by additional traffic, this would cause a significant hardship on the homeowners of Mariposa, as it would result in a special assessment to all. We already have a mess of slow-moving congestion downtown. Please do not penalize us by approving the annexation of this property before there is a well-thought-out plan for transportation. We do not want to have to endure the same traffic bottlenecks just trying to get in and out of our homes. We cannot and will not allow access to our private road by the residents of the proposed apartment project. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Edwina, is it Pelica? Edwina? Am I saying your name right? Pelica? Okay. I hate to mispronounce names because I hate to have mine mispronounced.
I know. All right. So mine is actually a little bit, I've agreed with everything that has been said. Mine is a little more personal. I think you need to know the personal side, and I think I speak for almost everybody in the reason they moved here. I moved here from Los Angeles, California, 3 years ago. It was time to retire after running my business for 38 years in the frenetic way of life that is LA. 24/7 of noise, traffic, and sirens. I fell in love with Fredericksburg and all it had to offer. It was the perfect place for me. Here I found a beautiful, peaceful community where I felt safe and secure. After looking at many homes, I found Heritage Hill Country Estate offering me the quietness I desired, surrounded by beautiful flora and fauna vistas in every direction. And I discovered the wonderful night sky, unpolluted by city lights. We all chose Heritage Hill Country for these same reasons as a perfect retirement home in a lovely town. I am bewildered why you would even consider planning this project in our community, surrounded by private homes. Why would anyone consider building 3-story, low-income apartments housing 500 to 750 persons in the middle of an area surrounded by private properties? The occupants will most certainly be able to look down into our gardens and maybe thereby taking away all privacy and views from my patio where I enjoy sitting. I could have stayed in North Hollywood or Glendale. I live on Chase Oaks Place and my fence abuts Mariposa. There are so many other areas which are wide open and available for such a project. We see Friendship Lane and South Millen, etc. And our concerns are many. There is the safety factor of the huge increase of traffic trying to get onto 290, and the question of school buses, the added noise over my back fence, and late night lighting. Finally, there is the factor that such a project will majorly devalue my property. I will need to know who to go to hold responsible for making up that difference and reimburse me. I sincerely hope that you decide against going ahead with this project. It will bring a lot of anxiety and misery to all of us and destroy the joy we experience every day in our community. Thank you. I love videos.
Jessica Swanson Myers, I have your comments on written as well. You have more? Great. And I'm not being sassy, really. Aaron is
That's my
Aaron?
husband, but he's not here.
Okay.
He's with the kids.
All right.
Yeah, so my name is Jessica Swanson. I did send you comments already. I just have a couple additional to add and some pictures for y'all. I know people have referenced roads and the views, so I just wanted to provide some actual photo evidence of that. So that first picture is the picture of my front porch view looking at the sunset last night, completely uninterrupted by buildings or anything. And as many people have said, the comprehensive use plan designates this area as rural. The right side hand of that picture is where those apartments would be going. It would be completely ruining that area. The second picture is the entrance onto Mariposa Drive. And again, I'm sure you guys are familiar with all this, but as many people have said, traffic is going to be a major concern. Multiple cars getting in and out of that area are going to require a stoplight. There's no way to do it otherwise, which is going to have to then be built halfway over Barons Creek Bridge. I have also provided some pictures of Mariposa Drive and then the sharp turn angle that they were referring to in some other speakers. I am actually an emergency medicine doctor. I have seen many, many accidents from roads like this, turns like this over the course of my career. And as many people have already mentioned, we walk our dogs on that road. I push my 3-month-old baby in the stroller on that road. People run on that road. Adding all that traffic in is going to create a serious hazard for all of those activities. And then pictures 5 and 6, this is actually the proposed area in the developer's PowerPoint of where one of the exits from the parking lot would be. So you can see in picture 5 that it would go right onto that little road where there's really not much room. And picture 6 is the view behind. So that's, these people would be looking right at parking lots and right at the apartment complex. And then finally, the last pictures are, again, just pictures of the sunset as I was looking at them last night. In a couple of these pictures, I have circled several deer. There are multiple deer, fox, butterflies, birds, all kinds of wildlife in this area that would be disrupted if this apartment complex were being allowed to be built. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for the photos. Alan Johnson.
Well, I'm Alan Johnson, Heritage Hill Country resident, member of the board of the HOA at Heritage Hill Country, and I'm here speaking against the annexation of the Mariposa property. The annexation appears to be tied to the development. We simply don't know enough about the development, the infrastructure impact, to make a decision regarding annexation. There are far too many unanswered questions and demonstrated inadequacies in the development plan, and most importantly, the necessary infrastructure. It's of vital interest to the council to note that the city's planning and zoning staff is recommending against the approval of the project. To quote just briefly from the staff recommendation found on page 11 of the 147 pages of the agenda in Planning and Zoning Meeting Agenda, Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, 5:30 p.m. That's the document title. The staff says, although the proposed development appears to meet a housing need for the city, there are concerns with potential negative impacts to adjacent existing low and medium density residential uses in the area, along with anticipated traffic safety issues. Additionally, as noted in section 3.120, R3 multifamily residential close of the city's zoning ordinance, the R3 zone, basis for the proposed private unit, public unit development, the PUD, is well suited as a buffer between single family uses and other more intense uses, which does not appear to apply to the subject tract. Therefore, city staff recommends denial of the request as currently presented for the high density residential zoning PUD of the subject tract. To even consider moving ahead with annexation will require modifications and special dispensations for long-standing protective city ordinances and zoning regulations. And I'm speaking of the entirely inadequate infrastructure within the neighborhood and its surrounding area. There is an inability of the existing infrastructure to support another 500 to 1,000 souls, up to 1/12 of Fredericksburg's current population, if you stop and think about that, in an area little more than 1 block by 1 block. We don't yet know the full extent of the deficiencies. There's been no environmental impact study, no traffic impact study, nor any study of the adequacy of the infrastructure. Even if the developer is forced to provide all infrastructure improvements, additions, and replacements, including 2 bridges over Heritage Creek and the Barons Creek, because no city money is available, and it sure isn't. The scope and cost of those very necessary replacements and improvements moves development costs into the range that they'll be unable to reasonably recover their development expenses at affordable pricing. Thank you.
Jerry Oliver. I do? Okay. Brian Swafford.
My name is Brian Swafford. I live at 212 Sunday Circle. Mariposa Sunday Farms consist of 27 single-family homes spread over roughly 566,000 square feet, which is about 13 acres. It is a challenge to say when 2 or more cars are going the opposite direction on Sunday Circle, which in many places is 13 to 14, 16 feet wide. One car has to pull over to let the other car pass. And it is exactly the same when 2 cars try to pass south of Joe's place down on Mariposa right before you get to the entrance of 290. That is just, it's almost impossible to get the cars through there. It is challenging now when the residents of Mariposa, 35 to 40 to maybe 50 cars a day, try to come and go on Sunday Circle and Mariposa Drive. And now we're actually really considering 250 residential spaces in 9 acres, which is about 400,000 square feet. It just doesn't make sense. Those 250 units would be at a minimum 450 to 550 to maybe 600 cars on the exact same road. It would be 20-fold the traffic. The amount of traffic on these very small roads would be very dangerous to the people driving on them, not to mention the vast amount of wildlife that makes Mariposa Sunday Farms very unique. This new high density development in no way, shape, or form adheres to the vision of the 2006 Comprehensive Development Plan, which is still in effect, which is intended to retain the agricultural and rural character in the ETJ. Chapter 4, as Eric pointed out, of the land use element specifically states the first priority for these areas is to support continuation of the rural activities and rural character that exist today. A 250 unit high density development, it's a stark contrast. It just doesn't make any sense. To support this new development, the entire infrastructure would have to be completely overhauled, to put in new roads, new bridges, new drainage, and there would have to be a new stoplight at 290 and Mariposa Drive, which would completely interrupt the flow of traffic coming into Fredericksburg and leaving Fredericksburg. I'm sorry I only got 15 more seconds, but I'm a real estate agent. I've done about $30 million in business in the last few years, and a lot of it has been with developers. I will promise you, at the end of the day, once you give those guys the green light, that affordability is out the door. All they want to do is their very maximum profit for what they've paid. Thank you.
Gene, Pior, is that correct? Pior?
Thank you, Council. My name's Gene Pior. I live on Chase Oaks. The back of my property faces Mariposa, my back fence. My big concern here is I'm the low spot on Chase Oaks. And all the water that comes from Mark Johnson's place, which is right up by Frieden, all that water drains to the back and then down to my property. At the back of my property, there is a drainage Clinton knows about. It grows across Mariposa and goes out into the field. Every time the city comes out to do something on Mariposa, they have this idea that they want to level the road out. And I'm the guy that says, get off my grass. I'm out there reminding them that this is a drainage. And if you block this drainage, all that water is going to come into my backyard. So I've got a fence in there that's about 2 feet off the ground, and it's screened so the animals can't come in, but it's where all the water exits my backyard. On both sides of me, the neighbors' yards drain to my yard, and from my yard, it drains out into Mariposa. I want to know what you're going to do with all of this water that is going to try to find its way to Barron's Creek, and what are you going to do with Mariposa? Because that's a drainage area. So I'm concerned about the surface water management. And I got to tell you, if I didn't have a great contact, first with Clinton Bailey, with Brian Canisi, and then you guys gave me a name, I forget what his last name is, Brian from the city. I've had him on my speed dial for 7 years. Because every time they come out to do something on Mariposa Drive, the road, they want to block it up. The one guy, I came out and talked to him, and I said, do you see under my fence here, that drainage area? And he goes, yeah, what is that? I said, it's where the water comes out of my backyard and tries to get across the road, and you're trying to level the road. So what are you going to do with this 9 acres that's going to be 3/4 of it roof and pavement? Where's all that water going to go? And are they going to take it out to Barron's Creek? Because that's where that water's going eventually. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark Johnson.
Good evening, Mayor Hoover, ladies and gentlemen, City Council. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. And one advantage of going late in the day is that there's a lot of great speakers. Yeah. Joe, Alan. I mean, Alan hit the ball out of the park as far as I'm concerned with the city planning comments. But so most of what I have here, I'm not to bore you with. And I'll try to be like an NFL quarterback and do this in 2 minutes instead of 3. But I want to make 1 or 2 points. When I learned about this, my reaction was really astonishment because I thought we'd been here. In 2005, Arthur Dance proposed a high development project in his Peach Orchard land, which is part of the Freedom Project now. We're going to use Mariposa. City was all over this one and eventually said, you can't use Mariposa, it doesn't. We can fast forward 12 years. Freedom came in, they were going to use Mariposa for their primary entrance. Clinton, you remember this. City said, no, you can't do it. It doesn't work. So I thought in 2022, I don't think that traffic's gotten any better in 290. I thought we were there. And I know that you guys, this is a volunteer job, basically. I appreciate everything you do. Your time is valuable. I'm not quite sure why we're even spending time in this, to be perfectly honest. I think the other point I would make, and I will say, I'll give 1 point to the other side, that I realize under zoning, views are not protected. However, under the city's comprehensive plan and everything else, there's an expectation that we would not be facing 3-story apartment buildings here. So I'm not going to make the NFL quarterback see, but I'll get there under 3 minutes. I do want to say that I want to repeat though, HHC, we're a 55 and over community, and I think we're low maintenance for the city. I mean, we maintain our own streets. We don't have kids to send to city schools, and we have very light police. So I think we're valuable, and I think this would hurt us. Now I want to add 1 or 2 other things. Martha Zire said this is the wrong project in the wrong place. Now I agree. I absolutely agree with John Hayward. We need affordable housing. I'm with that all the way. I'd be happy to work on that. I'm a retired attorney, but this is the wrong place for it. And it seems to me that you've really got enough here that I know you don't vote on this tonight, but I would hope this wouldn't go a whole lot farther. So again, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And having served as president of the HEC board for a couple of years, which is also a voluntary position, I really appreciate everything you guys do. Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. Motion? Yeah. Now we hear from them?
So I don't believe staff was planning to give a presentation tonight since it's just a public hearing, but my understanding is that the developer may be here and may want to give a presentation, during the public hearing, give their side of what they intend the project to look like.
Okay.
I mean, which is typically done in the public hearing for these projects.
Okay. So recognize the developer?
Sure. Is the
okay.
applicant present to speak?
Okay. Would you mind pulling the mic up so I can hear you better? Sure. Thank you.
3 minutes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council.
If you wouldn't mind identifying yourself for us.
Absolutely. My name is Woody Victor, and my business partner is Martin Pavlicek. We're the developers of this project, or the vision of this project. We met with the development services in the city of Fredericksburg a couple of years ago, and Mark is also a resident of Fredericksburg, and the glaring, overwhelming sentiment was that the city needs more housing, affordable, for workforce, for teachers, for nurses, for firemen, policemen. So this is what we came up. Admittedly, we should have done a much better job in presenting to the neighboring communities. We started that process. I think it's more of a question of timing rather than intent or desire to kind of slip one in. But I think what we do want to talk about a little bit here, there's definitely a lot of work to be done. This is really much a conceptual, high-level plan. We know that you guys, The city needs housing that's attainable to the lifeblood of the city, your firemen, your policemen. But we also, there's a lot of work to be done. Rome wasn't built in a day. And I know Fredericksburg, Sunday Circle, Sunday Farms, Heritage Hill, I know that wasn't built in a day. So we know that there's a lot of work to do. Traffic study, absolutely, 100%. We got to get that done. We got to demonstrate that this is going to be accretive and additive to your community, not a detriment. We plan to significantly invest significant dollars on infrastructure. So the current issues of safety and the traffic issues that have been brought up, we definitely wouldn't want that to exist if we're going to put a development there. It would just be a non-starter. So we would be investing private money to help support the city of Fredericksburg deal with obviously an ongoing issue. We don't plan to put 400 roads or 500 vehicles on Sunday Circle. These are some things that, again, a testament to the fact that we need to communicate better what our plan is, and we definitely plan to do that on an ongoing basis. Some of the things, it's not 100% low income. We don't see this as devaluing your properties. We actually would do it in a way to increase the values of your property, and there's significant test case and precedents to demonstrate that that wouldn't be the case. Again, there's not a lot of time to address this in one sitting, but we do plan to do better in meeting with everyone to share the vision, get your feedback, incorporate into a plan that works for everyone in the community. You got 4 seconds, Mark.
Our quick goal is just to work with everybody. This is a starting point, and we want to meet. We met with Heritage Hills. Nancy, thank you, and the rest of your team today. We want to get together a lot more. We want to meet with Sunday Circle, Homeowner Association, and whoever else we would need to just get together and meet with each other and go over and take your concerns and build something with everyone's concerns in mind.
I know that was a very quick presentation, but we do plan to do a lot more, hopefully get more than 3 minutes to share our ideas and incorporate your feedback as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
As Mr. Woody,
Please. Please. Thank you.
thank you. As Woody summarized, the request before us this evening is just the annexation portion of the overall development. As you had pointed out earlier, the zoning and the land use item will be considered first by planning and zoning tomorrow night. Both items will come back to City Council, I believe, on September 19th.
Our next meeting.
Yes, sir, for consideration for the annexation, land use, and zoning. We'll see what planning and zoning's recommendation is tomorrow night regarding the zoning and land use items.
Okay. Anything else from staff? All right, let's go out of public hearing.
Make a motion, we go out of public meeting.
Second.
Out of public hearing into regular session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you, folks. Very impressive you'd show up for your neighborhood like you have. Thank you. I'll give you a few seconds if you'd like to go ahead and see what's on TV at 7:15. Did you have some questions? Okay, folks, if you don't mind, I'd appreciate as you leave, if you'd be quiet because we have other business to transact. Please take your conversation outside. Hello? Hello? Oh, sorry. I know. Hey, Mr. City Manager.
We're going down, traffic jam.
Who cares?
We're going down Sunday Circle Drive right now, after getting out of 290. Is that in the deal with the mayor's gonna be?
All right. Resuming as we were, item number 8. Consider the approval of ordinance 2022-29 amending Article 2702 electric rates of Appendix A fee schedule, etc., to update and amend the fees for electric service provided by the city. We may waive the second reading. Let's hear from we'll hear from you first, Clinton, and then Chris. Chris?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chris Canese, Interim Director of Public Works and Utilities. So this is just the follow-up item regarding the electric rate increase. This item was presented by Schneider Engineering in the middle of July. Schneider Engineering completed a electric rate study evaluating our operation, maintenance, capital projects, basically all of our expenses relative to the revenue side to make sure that that budget was healthy. During that rate study, they did determine that in order to keep a healthy operation, maintenance, cover capital costs, that a rate increase was necessary. We have been talking about this as part of the budget over the last couple of months. That rate increase is currently included on the revenue side of the proposed budget. So those revenues are based on this current ordinance before you tonight for consideration. Just as a comparison, on page 82 of your packet, it's kind of hard to read there, but this is a comparison of where we currently are with our electric rate for an average residential customer that uses approximately 1,000 kilowatts per month, compared to where we are proposing that electric rate be placed. This compares K-Pub, Kerrville Public Utilities, San Marcos, Lano, Central Texas, Bernie, and other cities and municipalities and co-ops within this area. Before you tonight, this proposed rate increase would impact an average customer, again, using about 1,000 kilowatt hours per month, by about $10 per month. So although it is an increase to the average residential customer's bill per month, it's not a huge increase. Again, this proposed rate increase is to cover our capital projects, our material increases, employee cost increases, and so forth within just the electric department budget. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
When was the last increase, did you say?
We did a 3% increase last year, but previous to that, it was 2015.
15.
Yes, sir.
So 3% last year, and that was the first since 15. Okay.
We are proposing, again, this would obviously be consideration contingent upon the approval of the budget, and that this ordinance would take effect October 1, start of the fiscal year.
So on the proposed budget, would the new number being used as your proposal for the budget for income?
In the budget, the current numbers, the proposed rate increase is currently in the budget. So if the council doesn't pass this rate increase, we would have to go back and decrease that revenue.
Questions?
Was there a survey done last year for the 3% increase?
There was not a rate study done at that time.
And then the rate study showed that we were operating under, right? We were losing.
That's correct.
Even with the money the golf course gets.
So if we continued with our operation and maintenance, essentially we are taking from that reserve balance, and eventually that reserve balance would be lower than our 3-month necessary operating expense that we need in that reserve. So essentially we are pulling from reserves every year, and so this rate increase will then not require us to continue pulling from those reserve funds.
Thank you. That's really compelling.
Any way of knowing how long this will last?
Well, again, some of the capital projects, some of the larger capital projects that we have, for example, electric department building, that's a finance over 10 years. Our electric meters financed over 5 years. So when some of that capital drops off, then there's that possibility to go back and look at the rates and possibly lower those at that time.
At least it puts less pressure on.
That's correct. Those were a few major capital items that we have addressed in the last couple of years.
Any other questions, comments? You know, it obviously, as a number, it's small, but in consideration of everything else, it has to be considered. I mean, I know you are just stating the obvious. I like to do that in the context of budgeting and tax rates and all this sort of thing, inflation, et cetera. But looks like we've done all of our homework to justify.
One thing I would like to point out, which I've done many times, our electric department has only 7 employees, and I think they do an exceptional job, and we need to support them. And I'm in favor of this rate increase.
Okay. Well, if you have no further questions or comments, I'm ready to.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2022-29, increasing the electric rates per the schedule and waive the second reading.
Second.
Motion and second to approve this ordinance for the electric rate as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. 8B, consider the approval of resolution 18R, appointing persons to serve on the CBP Board of Directors. Ernie, are you here for that?
Yes, sir. I wasn't sure if I was supposed to.
You weren't here for electric rates.
No, I wasn't sure I was supposed to speak or not, but just quickly, we have 4 members of the board who have served 3-year terms. Caitlin Ames, Kelly Criddle, Jessica Middle, and Marianne Turbeville, and they have been nominated to serve a second 3-year term. Matthew Pipkin, you actually approved not too long ago to fill in a position that was vacated, so he is now being nominated to serve a full 3-year term ending on September 30th, 2025. And Catherine Graham is being nominated to serve a 2-year term ending September 30th, 2024. And the reason we're doing that 2-year term is to get our rotation pattern back into the way it should be in terms of the number of people going off each year are being possibly renominated. Somewhere we messed up. We lost a member, didn't reappoint him, or didn't appoint a new one. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's the slate that's before you this evening.
So we need to approve it. So.
Correct.
I so move we approve the Convention Visitors Bureau Board of Directors.
Second. Motion is second to approve this slate as presented by their board for our approval. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very
much. Motion carries. Thank you, Ernie. Agenda item number 9A. Consider the approval of a contract for completion of phase 2. That's the construction phase of the broadband project in the amount of $1,051,843. I'll call on. Let me have a public comment first, Eric, if you don't mind. Jeanette Hormuth signed up to speak on this item.
Hello, Jeanette. I live in the city. I'm going to ask that the council either table this for a little bit or vote no. Broadband is not an essential function of the city. We already have broadband. People are just saying they want better broadband, some of the businesses, I guess. I work at a business downtown, and what they did is they worked with their provider and got better service. This is a private sector problem that needs to be solved by the private sector. As a taxpayer who, now my electric bill just went up, and you add that, it doesn't sound like a lot, $10 a month, it's $120 a year. You add that to the taxes, and inflation, everything else. So I do not consent to my taxpayer money going to broadband. It's not a function of the government, and it's something that will take away from the private sector who are covering this. We have a spectrum, we have different providers. Also, it's $1.3 million. So far, the city's wanting to raise our taxes and keep the ARPA funds. I say return the funds, $3.3 million we do not need to be spending. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
What is this? What is that?
A stack of paper.
Yeah.
That's for something.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you, Jeanette. All right, Eric. You want to talk to us?
Mayor and Council, thank you very much for your time today. My name is Eric Whiting. I'm the IT Director for the City of Fredericksburg. And we had put out an RFQ for the broadband that we just had discussed over the past year and a half with the broadband committee that made up of the EDC, Chamber, Hill Country Mobile Hospital, the FISD, and also the county. And we had identified some problems over that time. And I had noted some of those there in the packet from the background that we had. So in December, we put an RFQ out, and in March, we had that awarded to a consortium of Plumber, JC Communication, GDT and CommScope, and also Hill Country Telephone Communication. And in March, they had done phase one of the broadband project, which is engineering and design. And they did that engineering design off of the RFQ. This has now been completed, and then we're ready for the design stage or the construction phase for that design. And so the staff recommends for approval of the contract for completion of phase two, the construction of the broadband project in the amount of $1,051,843. And I'm also here for any questions that you guys may have.
I don't know the first thing about pricing of these things, so I'm assuming these have all, the price of the labor and parts has been vetted by people who know what they're doing. I mean, that sounds obvious, but I just have to ask it. And then this very, very long contract at the end, that's been reviewed, I'm assuming, Daniel, and as it's just a lot of language that contractees kinds of things that I'm assuming has been, it wouldn't appear if it hadn't been, right? But I'm asking about the contracting and that very, very long 16-page contract for the providers. Okay. And this is all staff reviewed and.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mayor, I can offer some comments on the contracting and procurement. So this contract, MICTA, that acronym is a cooperative purchasing group that essentially solicits bids for, across the country for service providers and for specific purposes, and then local governmental entities can sort of what's called piggyback off of those bids. So these prices were procured through that type of process, like a buy board or cooperative purchasing, where another entity does the vetting and the solicitation and selects the lowest and best bidder, and then the city enters into contract with that entity to piggyback off of that bidding process. So the agreement that's in here is actually in between the service provider and MICTA, and then we have like a one-page sort of addendum that we basically latch on to that procurement, if you will. So that's how that played out for this particular process. So Eric can probably provide more information on on specifics of technical information. I can't speak to that, but that's how it worked from a procurement standpoint.
Any questions of Eric? Or?
I have a question for Eric. When you started, you said you named all the entities that worked together with you on this. You said the city, the county, the school district, and what others?
Hospital. The hospital.
Hospital.
The EDC chamber, hospital, the county, and the city.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Eric, do you have a time frame for getting materials and going? Do we know yet, or?
We have a guesstimation, so we're looking at probably around 16 weeks to start getting fiber in, and then so we have discussed a time frame of probably May to June of looking at sometime around then to finish. That depending on us getting fiber and getting product, which is very difficult. Now also since there's a lot more municipalities, private public entities that are also doing the exact same thing we're doing with fiber. And so we just need to get in line. And so hopefully that answers your question there.
Thank you.
Mayor, in terms of the design of the project, this is very similar to a water line road construction project. The design group that Eric mentioned is a group of professionals, engineers that do this type of design work for these types of projects all across the state. So we started with a concept that this group took and did a design around. There were a lot of different iterations of it, staff input throughout the process to arrive at a final design that we essentially bid for construction, which is the second phase of the project that we're considering tonight. So previously, the council awarded a contract to the design firm. I think it was $186,000
That's
and
correct.
change, something like that. That was completed. So this is the construction phase of those improvements.
Where's this coming from?
It's a consortium, and there is a representative here from Plummer, and they are out of, I think it's Georgetown or it's Austin. I don't know. It's okay.
Eric, just to be clear, this is just for infrastructure for service providers to run their service on.
That's correct, and I can define that a little bit better. So the main purpose of what we're doing is to connect the campuses of the county, city, and FISD and the Hill Country Memorial Hospital. And moving forward that with some of the things that we identified of problems that we had with broadband here in our city, we felt that if we overbuilding this, that we can monetize this and assist with any other provider that wanted to come in town and piggyback. That was one of the problems that we had found, is that there was these private public entities were incapable of putting more fiber on our electric pole infrastructure. The city runs their fiber in a different location. And so that's the reason why the city is going to do that, is because we were able to run that fiber in that different location, and these internet service providers can piggyback on top of that and then pay a franchise fee to the city for doing so.
Thank you.
So I guess the question is, why aren't they kicking in money on this? Does that come through the franchise or what?
So what we will do is we will run the middle mile, and then the private public entities will come in and they will run the last mile themselves. So they will pay to run the last mile, like in the neighborhoods. So because we're putting this infrastructure in for us, and then we overbuilt it, we were gonna monetize it in a way that when we started they started selling more connections, then they would pay the city a franchise fee for the more connections that they have.
So what kind of commitment do you have from them at this point? Anything?
I'm sorry, Mayor?
What kind of commitment do you have from them at this point?
I do have 2 letters of intent. I have a letter from Hill Country Telephone Company. And then I have I apologize. I have a verbal of intent from VTX1, which is a cooperative in South Texas that is very interested in coming here. They've already purchased Bee Creek, which is an ISP, internet service provider here in town.
But what about FISD and the hospital?
FISD in the hospital has utilized our fiber network that we put in back in the late 90s, and they would be able to utilize this new infrastructure for some of their new campuses they're putting in.
And you've had offline conversations with them about
Absolutely.
This,
yes, sir. They have been involved since we started the conversations.
And you've gotten a favorable response. Okay, but nothing committed. And not said, do this is what we'll do.
Well, they already pay us currently now to utilize our current fiber infrastructure that we had put in, and then what we're doing is creating reams for redundancy.
Okay.
And they do know about this.
So it's reasonable to assume they'll continue to be a customer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
County the same way.
County? Yeah, the county is definitely interested. I had given the county their pricing for their budget, so they could put that in their budget to get onto our to the new infrastructure if it were to be approved.
All right. A couple of comments then relative to what Jeanette has said, and I know others have said about broadband being a government function and so forth. I'm just going to disagree with you. I think these days that broadband internet is a function of a municipality, especially one that is becoming as sophisticated as ours with regard to the tourism business, the lodging business, accommodating FISD and HCMH and others. I think it is a function of our municipality. Obviously, we've made some commitments here that we have to live up to. We also, this council is caught in not even a halfway of this project because the RFQ was sent out, what, a year and a half ago or more. And so I wouldn't be inclined to pull the rug out from under all that project with all these things that have been going on. It is also one of the, to pull the rug out of the project when these things have already been established, the process in the beginning and moving on to phase 2. It's also part of the path to the future. It's one of the visioning process objectives is to expand broadband to accommodate broader city use and broader city growth with high-speed internet. So I just wanted to say that because I'm never comfortable with when someone makes a public comment and it's never responded to, because I would vote to approve this. That's why I wanted to address that. Anybody else?
I just want to piggyback on what the mayor said about it being an essential service. After 9 years on the hospital board and serving on the state Texas Hospital Board, I say it is an essential service for the hospital and the school district, but especially for the hospital if we want that area to grow. Considering the age of our population, I believe it is an essential service. So you ready for a motion?
I'm ready.
I move we approve resolution 2022-18, no, sorry, for the completion contract phase 2 of the broadband project.
Second.
In the amount noted. Okay. Motion second to approve this contract for completion of phase 2. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Mayor Council.
Item 9B, consider the approval of the Fredericksburg Cbp budget for fiscal year 22-23.
Good evening. I'm back.
Welcome back.
For those in the audience and here and those online, my name is Ernie Leffler, current President CEO of the Fredericksburg Convention and Visitor Bureau, but soon to be retired President CEO. First of all, thank you to the City Council for your support of the visitor industry over the years. A steady funding mechanism has been a part of the success of our destination in a highly competitive marketplace. Fredericksburg now competes on the state, national, and international level. In calendar year 2021, total revenue generated for all businesses in the city and county through direct visitor expenditure stood at approximately $241 million, according to the Office of the Governor, Economic Development and Tourism. That is a crazy 84% increase over the previous year. And that was based on the marketplace's reaction to COVID. Fredericksburg and Gillespie County were able to bounce back much sooner than many travel destinations based on the tourism product we have for visitors, where we're located within driving distance of approximately 29 million Texans, our hardworking partners in the local tourism industry, our friendly local residents, and the dedicated team at the FCBP. Some of them worked here today. Thank you. Based on these numbers, the return on the investment of the city and the county was about $67 for every dollar spent of lodging occupancy tax in calendar year 21. And that's a pretty good return on your investment, I believe. For most businesses, they would do it that way. As a quick note, I would let you know that I believe that we are trending toward more normal levels of tourism this year. 21, as I've talked to some of you individually, was a year that was way, the growth was tremendous, and it was based on the COVID. So 2019 was our last normal year, and I think we're going to be headed more in that direction, which is good in some ways because we were a little over busy during 2021, if that's a word. Recap of the 23 budget, total FCB budget of $5,336,414. The city portion is $4,336,414. The county portion amounts to 1 million, which is all-time high for the county in terms of budget. This budget is based on a roughly 1% projected increase of the city's occupancy tax collections for fiscal 23 over the projected amount of collections for fiscal 22. That is a very conservative approach for this year based on the financial headwinds that consumers are facing. So we tried to be really conservative this year, more conservative than we've ever been probably in the past in terms of projections. These budget dollars are totally funded from lodging occupancy tax collections in the city and county. No tax dollars from local residents are used to support the budget of the FCBB. Part of the city and part of the county occupancy tax funds from visitors are also used to support historic preservation and the arts in Fredericksburg and Gillespie County, which benefit local residents as well as visitors. Beyond the ongoing marketing work of the FCBB, this year we will continue several initiatives that we began in this fiscal year, including additional visitor research and data collection to kind of see where we are in terms of visitors post-COVID, although we're not really post-COVID totally, but a tourism master plan for the destination that hopefully will work in conjunction with the city's comprehensive plan that you started working on. We're placing $500,000 in a dedicated reserve account for a possible expansion of the offices and meeting space at the Visitor Information Center building. And then continuing the tourism management and stewardship campaign for Fredericksburg and Gillespie County, which was launched in February of this year. Eric, could you hit that 30-second commercial? This is a paid commercial.
I've seen it. I'm just going to step away for a second.
Sure.
Fredericksburg and Gillespie County Special. Be Texas friendly. Share the road. Put litter in its place. Respect private property. And protect our dark skies. Thank you for caring about our community.
Thank you. So this campaign is basically aimed at visitors and local residents to get the message across that we all need to do our part in trying to protect the community that's been spoken about a number of times this evening that Fredericksburg has been and hopefully will be. Hopefully all of you have had time to review the budget book before this meeting. For the audience, the council did get an extensive book with all of our plans and marketing plans. The FCB Board of Directors has approved this budget, and on behalf of the board, I would respectfully request your approval as well. Saying that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the mayor, when he comes back, or the city council members might have.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to put it into the record. Ernie, I want to thank you for the great job that you've done all these years. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ernie, thank you and your team for putting this together, and thank you for meeting with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Went into some of the details. One little thing I noticed, the budget wasn't included in our agenda, so it hasn't been public for everyone to get to see. Is there a reason for that? It was brought to my attention that it wasn't on the agenda, so.
It hasn't been in the last 24 years, so I don't know. I don't have an answer to that other than that's the way it's been done.
I didn't know if it was going to reveal trade secrets or something.
Well, I will say that, as you noted, some of the information in terms of where we place our advertising and our marketing strategies, we do view those as somewhat confidential. I mean, it's not national secrets, but we do like to keep ahead of the rest of the field out there that's trying to bring visitors to other cities and towns in Texas. But other than this is the way we've always done it, I don't have an answer for that beyond that.
And then, as we discussed, any services that the city might provide in excess of that 5/7 allocation is reimbursed, like grounds maintenance, IT services, things like that.
Yeah, over the years, we've basically been paying more of our way, so to speak, in terms of services that the IT department has done for us, and very well done, I might add. So, those parts are reimbursed in the either in our budget or the tourism fund budget.
We could put it up. Is it on your? I'm not talking about the information you'd like to keep a project. I'm talking about the budget itself. That's public,
Yeah.
Okay. Do you put it on your side, or should we, or?
You could, certainly. I
Okay.
can get it to whoever I need to get
But,
it to.
but you're saying your whole time here, that's never been done?
No, sir.
Wow. Wow. What do you think?
Not that I'm aware of. Let me put it that way.
I understand. And I'm not, yeah, I agree with Emily that we're working to get everything out there for people.
Sure. I think it's good information if Ernie's comfortable with putting the budget out there for everybody to view as part of the agenda pack. And certainly,
I'll do that.
Yeah, not a problem.
Okay.
Like I said, some of the marketing information we would like
Sure.
a little bit
We're just
more
talking about
close.
the numbers of the budget only.
Yeah, the budget
Okay.
document would be
'Cause we
perfectly
understand
fine.
that. Yeah.
So are you considering table, are you saying we should?
We can approve it unless you don't want to.
And following staff's recommendation, I move that we approve the 2023 CBP budget.
Motion second to approve the CBP budget as presented. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you for your approval. I'll just say that I'm sure that the new president and CEO will do a great job implementing this budget, possibly fine tune it a little bit if he or she has some, something they'd like to do a little bit differently. But I would like to thank the city and the county for your support over the years. It's been a great time, and hopefully we've done a great job. Thank you very much.
You have, Ernie.
Thank you.
And one thing, in case you didn't know, Ernie is going to be honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award at the event in Galveston. It's the Travel Association?
Texas Travel Alliance.
Alliance.
Yeah. In September 20th. So.
And I'm assuming they don't just pass those out. So.
One a year.
Yeah. But you have to serve for at least 24 years. I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's lifetime achievement. I'm a little worried about that. I don't know. That means your lifetime
like
is
you're
over.
done? No, okay. All right. We'll say
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ernie.
Boo.
Sorry. Oh, come on, Tom. All right, we're going to go to public comment on items not on the agenda. Carol?
Good evening. I want y'all to know I'm not a believer in conspiracy theories, and tonight I'm going to show a small 3-minute true story video.
Okay.
I'm Carol Hammerson. I'm a resident of Fredericksburg. This happened to a friend of mine. He was a highly decorated Special Forces Green Beret officer with several tours in Vietnam, combat wounds, and a Medal of Honor nomination. Falsely accused and prosecuted by our government for something he did not do. Ultimately found not guilty on all charges after the jury deliberated for 11 minutes. During the investigation, his promotion and his Medal of Honor nomination were suspended. His medical records disappeared, so he could no longer wear the Purple Hearts that he had earned. He cooperated with the investigation without legal counsel until people threatened the careers of fellow officers. He would be ordered to the middle of the base in the middle of the night, find no one there, and only to come home and find that his apartment had been broken into and documents stolen. His phone was tapped, and I believe mine was as well. His defense attorney was declared no longer available for his use in order to turn over all documents to the prosecution. The investigating officer recommended that all charges be dropped, but that decision was overturned. Charges were filed in such a way that had he been convicted, all his prison term would have been served consecutively. He was considered a flight risk because and they told him he was going to be put in pretrial confinement because, after all, he had killed people in Vietnam and he had escaped from the Viet Cong twice. The investigation of his alleged crimes covered a 6-state area, involved 2 federal agencies, lasted over a year, many, many man hours, and in today's dollars, it would have cost $6.6 million. The judge offered him a psychiatric discharge if only he would confess. Officers and soldiers who served with him, including a Medal of Honor winner, testified in his defense, as did I and another mutual friend who'd been a donut dolly in Vietnam. 6 months and the not guilty verdict later, his attorney called an attorney at his new base and asked permission to tape the call. And at the end of it, he said, "Oh, whatever happened to my friend?" He said, Oh, not worry. Very powerful people here at the base have figured out a way to get him. The reason I'm telling you all of this is that the federal government has unlimited money, personnel resources, regulatory agencies, and all the time it takes to pursue you, your organization, or our city. This is what happens when an unelected bureaucrat decides to target a person, or it could be a city. So, as unbelievable as this may sound to you, I lived through this with him, and I can't tell you how much darker this nightmare really is, but that's my 3 minutes. So please keep in mind, the federal government is not our friend.
Eric?
Hello again. My name is Eric Hammerson. I live in the city. The city manager's report will note that at the next regular meeting of the city council in 2 weeks, you will adopt the tax rate and budget for the next fiscal year. So this is our last chance to give you our thoughts. For nearly 18 months, citizens have asked both the previous and current council to discuss the specifics of the ARPA contract with the Treasury. Unfortunately, neither council has put this on the agenda. All that's been discussed is how to spend the money. We've noted that the council has the authority to contract with the federal government, which is not listed among the duties of the city manager in our charter. There is no public record of the previous council having delegated that authority to the previous city manager. We have noted that the contract signed by the previous city manager with the Treasury is unlike any other contract in 3 ways. It's directly with the federal government instead of with the state of Texas to spend federal dollars. The list of compliance requirements is open-ended, and the city is required to provide compliance by any for-profit or not-for-profit entity that gets ARPA funds from us. No council member or city staff member has argued this contract is not unique in those 3 ways. We've noted the 16 specific compliance requirements included in the contract, in addition to the open-ended requirements to comply with all other federal statutes, regulations, and executive orders, and no council member or city staff member has claimed the city didn't agree in writing that it shall comply with them. We've noted that the city is required by the contract to provide for compliance with those same statutes, regulations, and executive orders by any entity that received ARPA funds from the city. And no council member or city staff member has discussed the process or means by which the city will do that. We've requested a risk assessment be done before spending the ARPA funds, but there's no evidence that that's happened or is being planned. Hundreds of citizens have expressed their desire either in person or via sworn affidavits over the past year to reject and return the ARPA funds. No doubt some citizens want to keep those funds, but none of them have taken the time to show up at a city council meeting and explain why the city should do that. Ernie's comments just pointed out we don't have a financial emergency due to the pandemic. I have no doubt that you have heard our concerns, but so far I've not seen those specific issues addressed in a public forum. For the reasons reiterated tonight, I respectfully request you return the ARPA funds instead of keeping them, cut out the lowest priority items, reduce the budget to fit within the no new revenue rate. Thank you.
Tom?
My name is Tom Marshall, and I'm a city resident. I'd just like to kind of go over real quick my written comments that I provided to give a brief synopsis of it. There's an axiom that says, that which one creates, one controls. We, the people, created government in this country. We, the people, control government. There have been some history that government is trying to escape that control and do things that we have not directed them to do. We approve our constitutions. We approve our charters. Those are the rule books for our government. A long time ago, back in the early 1800s, there was a situation where a very prominent naval officer passed away. Our Congress said we need to provide some financial assistance to the widow of this naval officer. Davy Crockett gets up and says, I am the poorest person in this Congress, but I will donate a week of my salary to this cause. We cannot give one dime of the tax monies that we've collected to this cause. That is not our purpose. A constituent later said, the people have delegated to Congress by the Constitution the power to do certain things. To do these things, it is authorized to collect and pay money, and for nothing else. Everything beyond this is usurpation and a violation of the Constitution. Now, I've heard it said that you feel that broadband is essential. I tend to agree with that. However, is that in the rule book that you're supposed to follow? If it's not, let's put the horse in front of the cart. Let's do a charter amendment that says the city of Fredericksburg will provide broadband. Unfortunately, I just read a comment that somebody found out in Houston that wants to do something similar, that there is something in the Texas code that prohibits municipalities from providing telecommunication services. I wonder if that has been checked out as well. So, if we're going to do this, let's put it in the rule book, make it right.
Mary Lee, sorry.
I'm Mary Lee Marshall. I live in Fredericksburg. On the subject of the budget and ARPA, I don't think there is anything I can say that will make you understand how much trouble you will be bringing to this town if you keep this ARPA money. I do know this, the money is federal bait. If you use it here in this town, bureaucracy will grow and freedom will shrink. And the budget will grow and your headaches will grow. How do you finance all the things that are going to come from this huge mistake? Bureaucracies will grow because they feed on money and they are very greedy. They're very good at supporting their arguments. The voters in Fredericksburg put you in office because they didn't like what the previous city council did. They voted for you because they hoped you would do your job and protect the town from federal intrusion. If you don't do that, we will have to find someone who will. For 32 years, Tom and I have been self-employed woodworkers doing custom work. People ask for our advice on what woods to use and what finishes for cabinets and furniture. And we tell them what we think, and they listen. If you choose to do something different from what we are asking you to do and advising you to do, you are not wasting your money. You're wasting ours on bureaucracy, paperwork. Bureaucracies are horrendously expensive, and they collapse countries. The voters put you in office because they thought we'd make better choices than the last group we had. They handed you a mess. I admit that. You can hand this mess back to the feds, or you can keep it. If you give it back, you will be showing the people that your oath of office means something more than a bunch of words. It means something more to us.
Kimberly Lambs.
Hi, my name is Kimberly and I do live in the city. A lot of what I was going to say has already been touched on, so I would just like to point out a common theme that I noticed between this council and the previous council. There seems to be some understanding going on that y'all are reporting to people like the city manager or the city attorney or the Texas Municipal League or other non-elected entities or people, and that is where you're taking your true direction from. But your job as public servants that take an oath to uphold the Constitution, your first and most important duty and job is to we the people in this room. And I've seen time and time again, people will fill this room like they did tonight, talking about that building project, which, by the way, is a luxury jail. And you should never do that here. You're going to ruin their lives. They're clearly against it. The only one who wants it is the one with the money. It's his property. Oh, I want to make a bunch of money. At the expense of everyone else. It's wrong. You need to listen to your constituents. There needs to be a shift of trust and respect that is going to come back into this community, in the state, and in the country. That's the only way we're going to save this country. Big money projects should not be put above the community. There is no resolution going to be found there. This community doesn't want that. People come here to enjoy the country, which is another reason broadband makes no sense. If you want high-speed internet, move back to the city. Sorry, that's how I feel. Let a business do that. Do not steal ARPA money from future generations down the road. Your unborn great-great-grandchildren, this ARPA money that the government and the Federal Reserve just printed out and put some numbers in a computer screen, you're stealing it from them. And you don't even care. A path to the future reads a whole lot like Agenda 2030. And if none of you have actually taken the time to read the entirety of Agenda 2030, I highly suggest that you do and start highlighting words that keep showing up in patterns, because you will find them scattered all across that path to the future. Please stop this. Keep our town peaceful and quaint and amazing. No more big government money. Send that ARPA money back. No new tax rate. And government has no business paying for internet. They have just as much business paying for that as they do my student loan. Are you going to cover that one too? Probably not, right? It's not a pick and choose. Thank you.
Jeanette?
Good evening. I'm Jeanette. These are over several hundred sworn affidavits and legal notices that the people of Fredericksburg, residents, the taxpayers, people that work here and do commerce here, letting the previous council know that they are against the ARPA funds. It's actually a cease and desist, and calling, contending that they're maladministration. This was passed without anybody knowing the terms. It was passed basically illegally by a city manager that had no right. The terms were never ever discussed with the people. When people brought this to the council, there was never an answer. People have been trying to speak up to this council and brought tons of information. And this is from people who've worked for the federal government for 30 years, like Eric, and people like George Studer, who's worked with the federal government in contracts. They're familiar with what goes on here. And many other people. There's people that are resources that I suggested you check out. I don't think you have, but the people, over 200, several hundred people have voiced it through these, took the time to spend money and go to notary and sign these things under penalty of perjury. And we've had dozens and dozens of people speaking up for a year and a half. on this. Several of you on council have expressed how you don't like taking money from the government, and in your own businesses and different things will not do it because of how they keep changing the rules and how there's so much compliance and, you know, stuff. And I'm asking you, do you have the courage of your convictions? Entering into this contract is reckless and unwise. You've gone to some of the Congress people. They don't know. They won't be here to help you. And what kind of answer is, it will probably be okay? That's the answer we're getting. Now, people have had specific questions, like Eric. Mine is, what will you do if some EO comes down that is infringing on people's rights? What will you do to protect them? And how will you do that when you signed a contract to the federal government promising to comply with the terms? Nobody's been able to explain that to us. We have a right for these concerns and the ones that Eric has brought up and these answers to be addressed, preferably in writing. And where is the money in the budget for all the compliance and the audit and all those things? So I also asking to return the ARPA funds. I'm sorry, I ran out of time.
Your time is
No new tax rate and cut the budget. Thank you.
April. Thank you, Jeanette.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is April Laird. I'm a working mother with a teenage son and an 8-year-old daughter. The future of my children are my primary concern. Keeping any of the ARPA funds is very disturbing to me. As stated in this signed contract, we are now legally compliant to all statutes, executive orders, and regulations stated on page 3 through 5 of the 437-page final rule by the Treasury Department. To undo this violation of our constitutional rights, we cut the budget and return the funds or raise taxes. I'm opposed to the latter. My taxes are not a fixed rate. Cutting the budget has numerous opportunities. Fredericksburg does not have a deficit. This money was to fund the parks, broadband, and nonprofits, to name a few. Any person affiliated in any way with recipients of these funds is now obligated by law to adhere to any and all federal mandates, bringing federal control deeper into our city. So how can the budget be cut? Start with $1.3 million for broadband. Why is that my expense? Yes, it is needed by businesses, hotels, and offices, so let them pay for it. Inflation in the budget varied from 25% more to 200% more. This is a very large increase. This federal government certainly doesn't have our best interest in mind procuring these rates that continue to rise. Our city takes in large sales tax revenues, hot taxes, fees, and more are projected for $8 million or more. Many new homes are being built, more tax opportunities. There will be money left after the funds are returned to look at priorities and make good choices, just like we do in our homes and our businesses. I pray all of you will please consider the consequences these funds will manifest for the hardworking citizens of Fredericksburg. Please don't assume that there are no strings. This administration ignores logic, law, and constitutional rights that our forefathers so perfectly wrote to protect us from exactly what we are seeing prevail in this country. I thank you for the opportunity that I had to speak.
Thank you. Council comments. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something?
Yes, sir. Just a
City
couple
manager's report.
couple of items regarding budget. We do have another opportunity for the public to provide input in a public hearing on the budget next week, next Wednesday at the golf course. We have a meeting scheduled at 1 p.m. So specifically the tax rate input there. And then we're just days away from potential adoption of the tax rate and the budget by the council. So we did get direction from the council. Our last budget meeting, we're incorporating those changes into the budget currently. We plan on getting that out to the council in the next days so that you can take a look at all of the numbers, including that tax rate. We'll be discussing that again next week.
Okay. 1 o'clock. Yeah. A week from tomorrow. Right. Yeah. And then a budget, then the tax rate, then adopting the tax rate and budget on the 19th, our next regular meeting.
That's correct.
Thank you. Council comments?
I had one thing. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing him, but I heard that Timothy Cook passed away, and his memorial service is going to be at 1 p.m. at Market Plots on Sunday, in case anyone wants to go.
1 p.m. Sunday, Market Plots. Thank you. Long time advocate for all good things, Fredericksburg. Any other comment? 13 items for future agenda.
Okay, Mayor, as I mentioned, we do have a public hearing on the budget, the tax rate coming up next week, September 14th. During our regular meeting on September 19th, we have adoption of the proposed FY 2023 budget, adoption of the INS and M&O tax rate, that same meeting. P&Z, land use change and zoning change, 611 and 613 East Austin and 106 and 108 North Columbus. Conditional use permits at 206 North Milam, 513 South Adams Street. We have we heard tonight, the EPD Mariposa Voluntary Annexation Ordinance on the agenda currently. Also the land use for the same development. I think we'll finally be ready for the Market Square redevelopment bids, the development on the northwest corner of Market Plots. I might ask Daniel on the municipal court lease. I think we're going to be ready for that.
We've already got a draft that's being circulated, so I think we could have that ready for the next meeting.
Also, the Texas Rangers contract, Daniel. I think we have that on executive session.
Yeah, that's not a contract. It's the subordination agreement related to the potential lending for funds that we discussed previously. So I don't know where we are on that. I'll have to check with them. And we probably still need to discuss it, though, executive session.
Cbp lease agreement. There's another one we've been pushing back just a little bit.
Well, we can get it ready if we can. I mean, if you want it on the next agenda.
And then finally, the active shooter state grant, G4R. That's all we have for the 19th, Mayor. Not at this time, unless you want to. It's completely up to you.
I want us to put the ARPA thing on one of the agendas. We need to discuss it openly and make a decision to clear the air. So it might be next Monday, and that Monday meeting is just loaded.
It would really need to be that meeting.
Sorry?
If it would be preferable if it was that meeting, it's the same night that we're adopting the
Yeah.
budget.
Well, is there anything we could bump? Because I'd like to fully develop that. If we decide, the council decides to keep it, then I would like to express to the public what we intended to do to address the concerns, and what actions we're going to take going forward with regard to the monitoring and the regulations and what we're asking of the nonprofits and so forth. I think we owe the public that. Let's put that on the agenda and talk it openly and vote and put it to bed. One way or to other. We decide we're going to send it back, and here's how we're going to accommodate that money, or we're keeping it, and here's how we're going to address the concerns. So can we do that on the 19th?
Could we do that on the 14th, Daniel, as part of the public hearing for the tax rate, potentially?
I don't see why we couldn't. It'll be a special meeting anyway. I mean, you could add it as an agenda item.
Yeah, I think I'd rather do it the 19th. That's a public hearing on the tax rate.
Yes, sir.
Let me think about it. Y'all have a preference? Assuming you agree that well, I'm asking you to do it. You have a preference? Is the 14th okay?
I have a preference of the 14th because that will give staff time to adjust the budget if there's any changes.
Okay.
For the 19th.
Let's do it the 14th. Thank you, Bobby. Just needed that sense of the group. Anything else on agenda? All right. We have an executive session item that we're about to go into, and it is to consider and discuss the purchase and exchange, lease, or value of real property located in the vicinity of the intersection of North Adams and Travis Street in the city. As pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072 regarding real estate.
I move we go out of public session to executive session.
Second.
Motion second to go into executive session. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're now in executive session. Thank you.